I woke up to a man sticking his head in my tent while I was sleeping. I was recently in Africa on vacation with my family, and we stayed 2 nights at a desert camp in the Sahara. The first night, my sister and I were talking and hanging out with the guys who worked there, who were all probably around the age of 20 to 35. It seemed that they were just very friendly and harmless. I noticed at the campfire that night that one of the guys started paying more attention to me, and I felt a little uncomfortable, but I figured it was just a language barrier or something. So out in the desert, you can see the stars really well, and even the Milky Way on clear nights, but you have to wait for the moon to go down, which is around 2 a.m. I guess it's a normal thing for the guys to come around to the tents, which are luxury tents, furnished with beds, lights, a toilet, and shower, as well as locks on the doors, so not normal camping. Anyways, there was a knock on the door to see if you're awake and want to come out to look at the stars. My sister and I were sharing a tent, my parents in a separate one across the walkway. The first night around midnight, I told my sister I was too tired to go out because I was falling asleep, so she left to look at the stars without me, and I didn't lock the door because I didn't want her to get locked out if I fell asleep. Fast forward about an hour, I'm on my side asleep. When I woke up, I suddenly saw a head peeking in from the tent door. I thought it was my sister, so I groggily asked her, "What are you doing?" because it was just weird the way she was standing there. I started to wake up more, and I realized it's this guy from the campfire's head peeking in my room while I'm asleep. Now I know it could have been a simple misunderstanding, but I felt totally violated with my privacy, especially because we were on their territory in the middle of the freaking desert. Like, I'm not kidding. We had to take a 30-minute truck ride into the dunes. I was in a fight or flight at that moment. He literally woke me up with a panic attack, and I started to have a nervous breakdown. So I went to the door and told him I was tired. He kept trying to get me to come out to the dunes with a blanket, but I just kept saying, no, I didn't feel good, and was tired, which was true. At this moment, I don't know where my sister is. I don't know where my family is. I'm disoriented, and all I know is that this man is standing in front of me and was literally just watching me sleep. I don't know how long he was there for. Could have been a literal second, or it could have been 2 minutes, but either way, I was high-key horrified. I told him no again and said I'd go look at the stars tomorrow night. He told me that he wouldn't be at the camp the next night, and that's why he wanted to go out tonight, but I wouldn't budge. Once he realized I wasn't going to come outside, he asked me if he could have my number, and I told him no, I have a boyfriend. I really don't, but it seemed the only way this man would respect my disinterest was by knowing that there was another man in the picture. After I said that, he asked me for my first name, and I gave it to him, because I thought it wouldn't do any harm, and then I said goodnight and locked the door this time. I went straight to the bathroom to go pee, and while I was on the toilet, I heard him come back and start calling my name from outside the tent, but I just stayed quiet and didn't say anything. I finished in the bathroom and laid down in my bed, still trying to calm down from what had just happened because my heart was racing. I heard him come back again, calling my name. I laid in bed as still as I could and didn't say anything. I tried texting my dad, but he was not answering, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving the tent. Finally, my sister came back and my dad was with her, so I told them what just happened, and they were confused and thought it was weird that was kind of it. The next day, I brought it up at breakfast again, and my sister and dad basically told me I was being dramatic and that I should just stop talking about it already because it wasn't that big of a deal. My mom was the only one who was like, yeah, that's not okay at all. The second night, my sister and I were both out under the stars talking to the guys and relaxing. Keep in mind, it's very dark and you can't see any faces. So I was having a normal conversation with this one guy and all was well. After a while, he asks me if I remember him. And I'm like, well, no, I can't see you. He's like, oh, shine a light. And so I did. And it turned out to be the guy from my tent. I especially wasn't expecting him to be the dude in front of me, because he had told me he wouldn't be there that night, which leads me to believe he picked up a shift just to see me, but I can't be too sure. But surprisingly, he was fine that night and respected my boundaries, so I didn't say anything to the guys who ran the camp. I was planning on doing so if he did anything remotely uncomfortable, but he didn't. The next morning, we left the area, and a few days later, I start getting message requests on Instagram, and would you believe, the guy found me. I tagged the whole entire desert. Like, you're telling me he found me based on my name and a location, and not even a specific location? And my name isn't unique either. Anyway, he messages me, and although I'm creeped out, I'm also thinking, okay, well now he's harmless. I might as well see what he says. And what he said with direct quote, "You know, I'm really happy that I found your account. I was looking for you the whole time," which I found highly creepy to even say to someone, but again, it could just be a cultural difference, who knows. I didn't answer, and he messaged me again a few days later saying, "Hey, how are you?" but I still did not answer. I met a creepy guy at Subway. This took place in 2018. I am a girl who was about 13 or 14 years old at the time. My two friends and I decided to hang out, and from my friend's house, we decided to walk to the market, which has a Subway right next to it. We went to the market to walk around and started to feel hungry, so we went to go get Subway, and then we were gonna walk back to my friend's house. As we walked into Subway, we saw this man talking loudly to the workers. He wasn't saying anything bad, but was just telling them about when he would be there next. I think that's what I gathered when I listened in. No question to what he was doing. So while one worker talked to him, another took our order, made our sandwiches, and packed them up. During all this time, the man was still in the shop talking to the worker. We paid, and as we were leaving, so was he. He made it to the door first and held it open for us and said, "Come on, girls." Icky as young girls. We just awkwardly laughed, not knowing what to do exactly. We walked past him and started walking back towards the market, nearing the parking lot. We were talking and laughing, and we noticed he was behind us, laughing whenever we would laugh. So we got quiet and kind of whispered to each other that he was following us and that we needed to get away from him as fast as possible. So instead of walking into the street, we instead ran past the corner into the doors of the market and hid behind large stacks of water bottles until we were certain he was gone. One of my friends, after coming out of hiding, said that she saw him peer through the window before walking off. We waited in the store for about 20 minutes before leaving and walking back to my friend's house and making it back safely. Needless to say, I would not want to meet this man again. A creepy guy in Times Square. So my mom has never really been the best parent. She took me to New York City a lot growing up because she lived there for a bit before I was born. She loved it there. She got money when my father passed away and blew it on drugs and stupid stuff. One time, we were staying at a hotel, maybe like half a block from Times Square. I was 14 at the time and didn't realize until I was older that whenever we would go there, she would be doing drugs and passing out and stuff. I just thought she was tired or whatever. She hid it really well. Anyway, she would let me, a 14-year-old boy, go around Times Squares out by myself while she stayed in the hotel. I loved it at the time, but I also didn't know any different. I had always been able to come and go. She was very lax about that stuff. So one time I told her I'd be back. I left the hotel and was wandering around in Times Square. While she was in the hotel right off of Times Square, I forget which one, maybe the W? Anyways, it was summer there. There were so many people around. It was about 4 or 5 p.m. Still light out. I was dressed nice. I felt so free and excited to be there. I went to grab some pizza at Sbarro's, which was a few blocks away. I ate, then went back towards the hotel. As I am about a block away from the hotel, I locked eyes with this man through the crowd. He was around 35 to 40 years old. He was staring at me almost like he found what he was looking for. He was probably about 50 feet from me and he started walking towards me, but he had to make it through a huge crowd to get to me. So I immediately knew he was interested in me in some way, which made me think it's probably not something good. What could he want from a 14-year-old boy? So I turned into the building that is blocking me from the street and that my hotel's on. If I walked through the lobby, I could come out right across the street from my hotel. I opened the door and there is a woman security guard and I asked her if I can take the lobby to the other side. She immediately says no. I was too nervous to tell her what's going on. Also, I didn't want to get my mom into trouble, so I had to walk back out, and he must have seen me talking to the security guard and left. I stealthily got back to my hotel through the crowd. When I look back at all that, all I could think of is that I could have been taken.